Good morning, everyone. I call to order the 7th plenary meeting of the 22nd session. At this meeting, the Assembly will first hear the progress report by the coordinators and then turn to the introduction of draft resolutions. I would now like to give the floor to the coordinator of the working group on the program budget for 2024, Ambassador Ksenia Milankovic. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Vice President, and good morning to all. As you may assume, we are still in the process of informal consultations regarding the program budget for 2024. The good news is that at the yesterday's meeting, we reached the consensus on the replenishment of the contingency fund for the next year, which was one of the really big issues. So we had a very productive meetings, but all of them have been productive, and we continue today at 4 p.m. Of course, not everything has yet been agreed, but I would like to use this opportunity to again thank all the delegations who have engaged very constructively and flexibly into the discussion of the next year's budget, and I'm confident that we will in the end reach a consensus on this issue. Thank you, Madam Vice President.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you for this update, and I obviously wish you and all the states parties to successfully bring these negotiations to conclusion. Next, I'll turn to cooperation, and I will give the floor to the delegation of France. You have the floor. You have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la vice-présidente. En tant que coordonnateur pour la coopération, la France et le Sénégal ont organisé et animé une séance plénière sur la coopération qui a été l'occasion d'une réflexion entre les États parties, la Cour et les membres de la société civile sur 25 ans de coopération. Par ailleurs, une discussion plus technique sur la question des arrestations a eu lieu, considérant qu'il s'agit d'un sujet de la plus haute importance, avec un impact direct sur l'activité judiciaire de la Cour et le bon déroulement de son mandat. En parallèle, plusieurs discussions informelles ont été menées avec les États parties dans différents formats pour discuter d'une proposition d'un État partie d'amender le projet de résolution sur la coopération et la partie relative à la coopération dans la résolution omnibus. Des positions divergentes ont été exprimées durant la période de consultation qui avait démarré avant l'Assemblée des États parties à La Haye. C'est une chose qui n'est pas coutumière sur la résolution coopération, mais cette année, nous avons eu ce challenge, ce défi à mener. Après donc une dernière réunion informelle hier soir, où chacun a pu exprimer ses positions. J'ai eu une réunion en plus petit groupe avec l'État concerné, le principal État concerné, et un projet de texte de résolution de la coopération et omnibus daté d'hier, 11 décembre, est prêt. Lors de cette réunion, hier soir, il a été indiqué que nous referions une réunion aujourd'hui pour faire le point sur l'état des discussions. En revanche, après cette petite réunion avec l'État concerné, il a semblé aux facilitateurs que nous étions vraiment dans une position où un compromis, quelque chose d'acceptable pour chacun des États parties, était possible. Les propositions initiales de l'État concerné ont été énormément retirées et il ne reste que du langage agréé et des références qui ne posent pas question sur le chapitre 9 qui est le chapitre de référence dans le statut de Rome pour la coopération. D'énormes avancées ont été atteintes en gardant du langage qui avait été proposé par des États parties en faveur d'un appui à la Cour pénale internationale, du langage nouveau cette année en raison de la particularité des défis auxquels la Cour est confrontée, notamment les défis de sécurité, et y compris de sécurité des officiels et des agents une fois qu'ils ont quitté leur mandat ou leur fonction à la Cour pénale internationale. Ces avancées sont également agréées par chacun des États parties et c'est une avancée majeure. C'est pourquoi il a été jugé plus utile de rapidement, en raison du temps qui nous manque, pour pouvoir avancer sur la résolution, sur les résolutions, de circuler ce matin en procédure de silence le texte de compromis qui a été déjà circulé informellement à de nombreux États parties, certes peut-être pas encore tous, mais de nombreux États parties. Et nous espérons cette fois obtenir un texte agréé en fin de journée. C'est pourquoi nous ne serons pas en mesure, dans la séance suivante, d'introduire le projet de résolution sur la coopération ce matin. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the hard work you are doing on this file. I am hopeful that the text will go through, and I encourage everyone to look at it in the spirit of compromise, because I know that obviously concessions were made by many, and this is probably the best what we can have at this moment. But thank you very much for updating us on the file. I now give the floor to the coordinator on the composition of the Committee on Budget and Finance, Ms. Shahanara Monica. You have the floor, ma'am.
Madam Vice President, distinguished delegates, thank you for giving me the floor. I have the honor to provide an update on the consultations on the composition of Committee on Budget and Finance. Since the beginning of the current Assembly session on the 4th of December, 2 meetings were held to discuss the allocation of seats in the Committee on Budget and Finance. And I am pleased to report that the state parties have reached an agreement in principle on the committee's composition, which is reflected in the draft decision contained in the annex to the report of the Bureau. The report is currently under silence procedure until the close of business today, that is 12th December. Following the conclusion of the silence procedure, the report will be submitted to the Bureau of the Assembly for its consideration and approval. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all delegations for their active participation, constructive engagement, and flexibility, which have led us to an agreement today. I wish to also thank the Secretariat for their invaluable support and assistance throughout the consultation process. Thank you, Madam President. This is all from me.
Thank you very much for your work on the file and your report as well. Now I give the floor to the State Party representative on the review mechanism, Ambassador Paul Wanden Eisel. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam President. My voice is a bit cranky, but I hope you can hear me. This is what New York does. But I'll try to give you an update on the work of the review mechanism during the 22nd session of the Assembly. that first of all, I wish to recall that following the conclusions of our work program in November, we have submitted a report of the review mechanism pursuant to the resolution of last year, ICC ASP21 Res 4, and the report was issued as an ASP document, ICC ASP/2211. During this 22nd session, we have held 2 rounds of informal consultations. On the 8th of December, we had a first reading of the draft resolution on the review of the International Criminal Court and the Rome Statute system. The resolution had a placeholder for the future of the review mechanism. States indicated their views on how they saw the review mechanism in the future. Some states expressed a clear favor for the mechanism to continue its work in order to oversee the implementation of IAR recommendations that have been positively assessed or assessed positively with modifications. Others were of the view that the issues could be carried out by the relevant mandate holders, but all in all, there was a lot of flexibility expressed by many delegations. Yesterday, we held another round of informal consultations to consider the draft resolution titled Draft Resolution of the Assembly of States Parties regarding the implementation of the 10-year policy. Different views were expressed regarding the date of implementation of the 10-year policy. I wish to note here that there was no state that opposed to the implementation of the policy itself, but some states were of the view that additional time would be necessary to consider the implications of the implementation. There appeared to be some flexibility emerging around the option to defer implementation to the 1st of January 25. We have circulated, after the consultation, 2 draft resolutions, one on the review of the International Criminal Court and one on the implementation of the 10-year policy. And in order to move both issues forward, and if the Assembly agrees, the review mechanism proposes that it would facilitate the discussions on tenure in 2024. If states agree to this, we foresee that our mandate would be extended for 1 more year so as to facilitate these discussions and, of course, to continue monitoring the implementation of assessed recommendations. We will hold further consultations on the 2 drafts at 12 o'clock today in this room, and we clearly hope to finalize the outstanding issues in both resolutions and to be in a position to introduce the draft resolutions as soon as possible. This ends my update, and I thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you very much for the update and also for the hard work both you and Ambassador Cano made on this file, and I hope your voice recovers before you return to The Hague, or they will never let you go to New York again. We will now proceed to the introduction of draft resolutions. First, I give the floor to Her Excellency, Ms. Alicia Buenrostro Macié, Deputy Permanent Representative of Mexico to the UN, on behalf of Ambassador Juan Manuel Gomez Robledo, Chair of the Working Group on Amendments, to introduce the draft resolution on amendments to the Rules of Procedure and Evidence contained in document ICC ASP/22/L3 and the draft resolution on the amendment to Article 39 of the Rome Statute contained in document ICC ASP/22/L4. You have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta, distinguidos delegados. Le agradezco por darme, en primer lugar, la palabra. Tengo el honor de presentar los proyectos de resolución titulados Enmiendas a las reglas de procedimiento y prueba de la Corte Penal Internacional, contenido en el documento ICC-ASP/22/L.3 de fecha 30 de noviembre de 2023 y la enmienda al artículo 39 del Estatuto de Roma, contenido en el documento ICC-ASP/22/L.4 de fecha 30 de noviembre de 2023. En lo que concierne al proyecto de resolución titulado Enmienda al artículo 39 del Estatuto de Roma, contenido en el documento ICC-ASP/22 diagonal L.4 de fecha 30 de noviembre de 2023 y de conformidad con el artículo 122 del Estatuto de Roma, dicha enmienda entrará en vigor a los 6 meses de su adopción por esta Asamblea. De igual forma, y siguiendo el procedimiento establecido en el artículo 122, la enmienda será enviada al Secretario General de las Naciones Unidas. Los proyectos de resolución reflejan el resultado de las discusiones que tuvieron lugar este año en el Grupo de Estudio sobre Gobernanza y el Grupo de Trabajo sobre Enmiendas, y las resoluciones fueron aprobadas por el Grupo de Trabajo a través del procedimiento de silencio del 30 de noviembre de 2023. Cabe recordar que la enmienda al artículo 39 del Estatuto y la nueva regla 140 ter dan cumplimiento a la recomendación 214 de la revisión de expertos independientes relacionada a la continuidad de procedimientos. Con base en el resultado de las consultas informales sostenidas, estoy satisfecha de que hay consenso apoyando estas resoluciones. Por lo tanto, someto las resoluciones a la consideración de la Asamblea. Quisiera agradecer a todas las delegaciones su contribución activa y constructiva y al Grupo de Estudios sobre Gobernanza por su fructífera colaboración. Esperamos que las resoluciones puedan ser aprobadas por consenso en la Asamblea. Gracias, señora Presidenta.
I thank you for introducing the draft resolutions contained in documents ICC ASP/22/L3 and L4, respectively. I will now give the floor to the coordinator of the omnibus resolution, Ms. Alexandra Hutchinson, to introduce the draft resolution contained in document ICC ASP22/L10. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Distinguished delegates, I have the honour to introduce the draft resolution on strengthening the International Criminal Court and the Assembly of States Parties, also known as the Omnibus Resolution, which is contained in document ICC ASP/22/L10, dated 11 December 2023. The document has been distributed via email. The final draft reflects the outcome of the informal consultations which took place this year in the New York Working Group. 2 rounds of informal consultations were held also during this session of the Assembly. There are 22 sections to the resolution and 2 annexes dealing with ways to strengthen the International Criminal Court and the Assembly of States Parties. The final text includes, among other things, technical updates, streamlining updates, the outcomes of separate specific facilitations, as well as new proposals put forward and agreed by states parties for this resolution. I wish to note 3 things in particular. First, states parties have this year made an important first step towards streamlining this resolution, including the endorsement of a new set of guiding principles to that end. I thank all states parties for their constructive approach to this streamlining effort. I urge all states parties to continue to build on these efforts next year and beyond to ensure this resolution remains effective and the process of negotiating it itself supports our efforts to strengthen the court and the Assembly. Second, among other things, this resolution establishes a new mandate requesting the Bureau to discuss the representative character of its composition, taking into account, in particular, equitable geographical distribution and the adequate representation of the principal legal systems of the world, and to submit a written summary of views expressed ahead of the 23rd session of the Assembly, and further requesting the Bureau to, in light of the written summary, consult with all states parties on the topic and submit a report without prejudice to any course of action ahead of the 24th session of the Assembly. This mandate is reflected in the final text in operative paragraph 107 and sub-paragraph I bis of paragraph 11 of Annex 1 on the mandates of the Assembly for the intersessional period. I note that since this mandate sets out a 2-year process, it has been agreed on the understanding that next year these paragraphs would be subject to technical updates only. Third, the document contains placeholders in square brackets for the outcome of the cooperation plenary, reflected in operative paragraphs 15 and 22 of the final draft resolution, as well as placeholders in square brackets for language to be included in the resolution negotiated through the facilitation on cooperation, reflected in operative paragraphs 16 through to 21 and 23 through to 26 of the final draft resolution, and paragraph 3 of Annex 1 on the mandates of the Assembly for the intersessional period. Madam Vice President, on the basis of the informal consultations, I am satisfied that there is broad and general support for this resolution. I therefore submit the resolution for the consideration of the Assembly, and it is my hope that it will be adopted by consensus. Finally, I would like to thank all delegations for their active and constructive contributions and engagement throughout the negotiations. I would also like to thank the President and Vice Presidents for their support, as well as the Secretariat, especially Liz Mercy Novas Alba, and the Court for their invaluable support, guidance and contributions during the negotiations. As the very name of this resolution and its very first operative paragraph indicate, our efforts on this resolution each year are not for the sake of words on paper. This text is an important and meaningful reflection of our shared mission to continue to strengthen the Court and the Assembly, to remain unwavering in our support for the Court, to uphold and defend the principles and values enshrined in the Rome Statute, and to remain resolved to stand united against impunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your report, for your update, and obviously very much for your hard work on this resolution and the file throughout the year, and obviously to all of you who still work on the resolutions, particularly on budget. I wish all the best luck and just successful conclusion to your work. It's very important. We have by now heard the introduction of some of the draft resolutions to be adopted at the session, but obviously, as I said, there are still some under negotiations. With this, we have concluded our business for this plenary today. We shall reconvene tomorrow morning for our plenary meeting dedicated to the review mechanism. Informal consultations on the review mechanism will be held from today from 12 to 1 in this conference room. And this afternoon, there will be informal consultations on the budget from 4 to 6, also at this conference room. With that, I thank you for your presence this morning. The meeting is adjourned.